Homologation specials are the most insane loophole in racing history. This is the story of the car companies that got so desperate to win races, they were legally forced to build road cars nobody asked for and sell them to regular people. They exist because of one gloriously stupid rule. Here is how it worked. For decades, if you wanted to go racing in certain categories, the rulebook said your race car had to be based on something you actually sold to the public. It was a noble idea. Keep racing connected to real cars that real people could buy. But the manufacturers read that rule and heard something completely different. They heard, build the most unhinged race car your engineers can dream up, then build the bare minimum number of street versions to make it legal, and quietly abandon them at dealerships like a bag of kittens. This idea did not appear from nowhere. The Lancia Stratos HF in the early 70s is often called the original homologation special, a mid-engine wedge built for one purpose and one purpose only, which was to win the World Rally Championship, and it did exactly that, taking the manufacturer's title 3 years running. But that was just the warm-up act. Rally's Group B era is where this really got out of hand. The FIA rule was almost adorable in its simplicity. Build 200 road cars, and you could go racing. That is it, 200. So Peugeot took its cute little economy hatchback, the 205, and did something a therapist should probably have been present for. They ripped out the normal engine, mounted a new one in the middle, added four-wheel drive, and built exactly 200 gray road versions that shared almost nothing with the shopping car they were pretending to be. The result was the Peugeot 205 T16. Lancia looked at that and said, "Hold my espresso." Their Delta S4 became the first production car ever to wear both a supercharger and a turbocharger on the same engine. The road version made 250 horsepower, which is plenty. The rally version made close to 500 and could reach 60 miles an hour on loose gravel in about 2.5 seconds, which is not plenty. That is a war crime. Audi had already been at this since the early 1980s with the Quattro, but by mid-decade they evolved it into the Sport Quattro S1 E2, a shortened, widened, monstrous thing with enormous arch extensions and somewhere north of 500 horsepower. Ford answered with the RS200, which looked like nothing else on earth, a mid-engine wedge with essentially no relation to any car Ford sold in a showroom. The British even showed up with the MG Metro 6R4, a tiny hatchback wearing a V6 engine where the back seats used to be, which is either engineering genius or a cry for help. Group B was magnificent, and that was exactly the problem, because it was also lethal. In 1986, the Lancia of Henri Touvenin and his co-driver Sergio Cresto flew off a mountain road on the Tour de Corse in Corsica and caught fire. Both men were killed. Within hours, officials banned the entire category. And just like that, the wildest era in rally history was over. The road cars survived as rolling proof of how far things had gone. Touring car racing, Group A, asked for a lot more. 5,000 road cars in a single year. That is a proper number, and it still gave us absolute legends. The BMW E30 M3, which was a race car first and a road car reluctantly. Mercedes answered with the 190E 2.516 Evolution 2, a saloon car wearing a massive rear wing it had absolutely no business owning. The Ford Sierra Cosworth RS 500, which came from the factory with a second set of fuel injectors just sitting there, unused in the road car, waiting patiently to be switched on the moment it went racing. And then there was the one that broke an entire sport, the Nissan Skyline GTR R32. It was so dominant in Australia that the magazine Wheels took one look and nicknamed it Godzilla, the monster from Japan. In Japanese touring cars, it won 29 races out of 29, which is not a winning streak, it is a hostage situation. They eventually changed the rules for the sole purpose of making it stop. The true peak of this madness arrived in the late 90s in GT1 racing. The rules said you needed street versions to race at places like Le Mans, and the manufacturers took that requirement out behind the barn. Porsche built the 911 GT1, which was a full carbon fiber race car with a friendly 911 face glued onto the front so it could pretend to be a normal Porsche. Mercedes built the CLK GTR, a car with almost nothing in common with any Mercedes a human could actually walk into a showroom and buy, and Guinness recognized it as the most expensive production car in the world at $1,547,000. And it somehow got dumber. Nissan built the R390 GT1, and the rules technically only required them to make one single road car, so they made exactly one. It still exists. Toyota built the GT1 and argued, with the straightest face in motorsport history, that its fuel tank counted as luggage space, because in theory a suitcase might fit in there when the tank was empty. Officials nodded and accepted this. Toyota built two. Now here is the twist everybody gets wrong, so let me plant the flag. The McLaren F1 was not one of these. The F1 was built as the greatest road car in the world first, and it turned out so absurdly good that it went to Le Mans and beat the actual purpose-built race cars at their own event. That is the exact opposite story, and it is a big part of why the F1 is worshipped the way it is. So that is the secret. Some of the most legendary road cars ever made only exist because rulebooks have loopholes and engineers have absolutely no shame. And honestly, the world is a far better place for it. Thanks for watching.